Now what's happening is there's effectively like this processing layer that is adding, not necessarily willy-nilly, because that's not a technical term, but it is doing things that are potentially unintended from, I would say, an artistic level. Like if you were the person who designed a specific character model in a game and that was your job.
Let's get to that in a second. I want to point out that the thing that Sony's doing is it's cool if you really dig into it, if you poke into it, but I think it's also, as far as like a big reveal of like something being different, it kind of feels like spot the differences between this picture. Like it is not beating over the head with something being leaps and bounds ahead. And you look at, when we got the jump from the PS4 to the PS4 Pro, they were like, hey, this has double the resolution, and also it's got more shades of color. Like there's a palpable difference. There's stuff you couldn't even necessarily view on a monitor that wasn't seeing this thing actually in action to showcase how cool it was. But in this case, we're seeing side-by-side screenshots of Grace, and if you look closely, you'll notice some differences, and probably seeing it in action, you might notice some differences. But it is so granular and such a subtle little change that it's kind of hard to get too excited about it. Flip side of that is that Nvidia showed off this new tech, which is their DLSS, which is an acronym that stands for something that starts with D, L, and then S and S, and I forget what it is. It's something super sampling. But basically, AI-powered up-resing and up-zooting and all that. And it doesn't look great across the board. It is clearly making some changes, and maybe that's the problem, is that it is taking too big of a swing. But there's this side-by-side going around of basically the, again, same image of Grace Ashcroft, and there's the regular model, which looks good. And then there's the newer model, which, for lack of a better word, looks yassified. Like it looks like she just put on a whole extra face of makeup and, got some work done, and it's just overly, it feels like the AI is maybe taking too many liberties.
Yes, that's the perfect way of putting it. And the reason we're putting these things in the same conversation is because like these breakthroughs were effectively announced and revealed in the last 24 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Both of these things came to market around the exact same time. They're both getting towards a similar obtainable end goal, but through slightly different means, and we're getting different results out of them. So one of them, I think, is going for a sort of a more artistically purist standpoint, right? Like the Mark Cerny thing, I think, for lack of a better term, is effectively the kind of the old school way that we saw resolution bumps and changes, right? Where it is adding a layer. It is maybe mathematically bumping these things up so that they look better. They are there's more pixels, all that stuff, right? So you're looking at it and you're like, okay, that is a crisper image. What Nvidia is doing here is basically extrapolating an idea from the original image and, like you said, yassifying it. It's doing this thing where it's like, if there's been this movement in the last couple of years where people upload their pictures to Instagram, and you can go through an AI filter, and it'll like clean up your pores, and it'll add makeup, and it'll fix your hair if you have that. Doesn't work on me, but although I guess it could just give me hair, right? That'd be a good test run. And that's what's happening here. And so where I think the disconnect is specifically is that Capcom, which is massive studio, right, just shipped one of my favorite games of the decade, basically said like, yeah, good job, Nvidia. But as a studio, I don't know if that statement is effectively speaking on behalf of the people that worked under the hood on these things, right? So like if you are the person or people who designed Grace's character model, right? You made very deliberate and intentional artistic decisions there to keep her looking the way she is. The context in which we see Grace in this image that's going side by side is the start of the game. She's walking down the street. It is morose. It is gloomy. It is sad and rainy. And she's a very skittish FBI agent returning to going to a crime scene, but that also doubles as a place that packs a very personal and horrific, tragic event that happened to her that changed her, right? That really made her into somebody that it defines her entire character, personality, and traits. For lack of a better term, and I'm not going to, I'll stay away from spoilers, but this happens in the first few minutes of the game. She's returning to a building where a very personal, deeply connected family member to her was brutally murdered. And I can't speak on behalf of women everywhere. good Lord knows I don't want to do that, especially with, with a daughter and a wife who would kick my ass if I did that. But I don't really know how much makeup a person like that would put on in a situation like this. I can tell you that what she's wearing in the game feels balanced towards where the scene goes, right? And like, this is a character that like slowly, and I've talked about this over the last few weeks on the show, slowly builds up confidence as a character, and early on is like shaking and terrified.
She's introduced as you see her cubicle, and it's just piles of of documents and files everywhere, and just boxes of evidence, and she's kind of a disaster. Like she's kind of introduced, and it's not to say that someone who's a disaster can't put on makeup and look good, but is this the right occasion for it? Is this the situation? Is it in line with what her character would do? And again, we're getting in the weeds here. Also, it's Resident Evil. Leon Kennedy looks way too good for the stuff he's doing. That's neither here nor there.
I will say he looks weird here too. And the thing is, like, they don't know the context. Like, the AI doesn't know the narrative of these games. It doesn't know the context these characters are coming from. It doesn't know the story. It's the same thing where we saw AI was used so unfortunately, like in the last year or two, they re-released a bunch of like amazing James Cameron movies, right? Like True Lies, and it got this like weird AI filter pass where if you look in the background, again, this is a moving target. This is technology that's improving every single day. If you're looking at these things as just like the graphics are better, then sure, you're probably clapping like a seal at this stuff, because it's like, you look at it and you're like, she's prettier, he's more handsome. I can see more wrinkles in the old lady's face in Hogwarts Legacy, right? But if you're looking at it from the perspective of someone who can sympathize with the character modelers, the people who actually modeled for these characters, the people who designed them, the people who wrote these stories, all of these decisions were made in synchronicity to tell a story and present these characters in a specific way. And to me, it's no different than when people were doing like Unreal Engine, realistic Mario, right? And you'd see his stubble and his like, all the memes going around now are like exactly that.
Well, we talk a lot about
I think that's where we're going.
How good art direction is going to age better than good graphics, because graphics are moving target. This is putting that right out in front, where like, this is not art direction. This is just pure technology being thrown at something. And some of it looks cool. The environments look cool, but I guess that's the thing is an uncanny valley is technically a location when it is an abstract metaphorical valley referring to the bizarre space between a non-realistic person and a real person. It's definitely there too. But I don't know. It makes me think of a million years ago, or 30 or something like that. My friend's dad bought one of the earliest digital cameras, or like, it was the first one I ever saw. It was a Sony Mavica. And instead of memory cards, which I don't think were really widely available, it just used regular ass floppy disks. And so you pop those in there, and like, that's a meg and a half. That's like, it doesn't hold a whole lot on there. And so you would fit about as many pictures in about whatever resolution you expect. And it came with, some of the earliest like proprietary photo editing software, which wasn't industrial grade Photoshop. It was like the free software that came with Sony Mavica or whatever. And I remember my friend's dad going in and like taking these super low res photos and then popping them in there and then putting on like a watercolor filter and then printing them out on like regular ass inkjet paper and being like, what do you boys think? How's it look? And we were just like, it doesn't look good. Like, maybe let's just go get the Polaroid out again. Like, this is, and again, digital photography has come leaps and bounds since then, and it's in a whole other story. And again, that's how technology works. Like, the earliest iterations of it are always going to be a little bit janky, a little bit weird. I guess it's just bizarre. We're at this point where video game graphics are so good, just in the conventional sense, the ones when it's being rendered natively on a piece of hardware, to the point where I feel like there's not really a huge urge to buy new hardware because it's kind of plateaued a bit. And the issue here is less the machine not being able to do what the developer wants it to do, and more the amount of work it takes the developer to fully take advantage of what this hardware can do. And so there's definitely a window in there where AI can come in and be used as a tool to make stuff happen better in whatever capacity. But in this case, it feels kind of like it's overcooked. It's like not the video game. It's like you made a beautiful dinner and it's like, hey, maybe we're short on some ingredients, or maybe it didn't come out perfect. But it's like, but what if we just took the whole thing and just put it back in the oven and cooked it harder? Does that make it taste better? Probably not.
Probably not. No. And we already saw this morning, there was a statement from Bethesda, because there was a lot of backlash about this, and Bethesda was effectively like, hey, like, we're still working out the kinks and trying to figure out, what like, how far we can push this, and like, thanks for helping us stress test, and please stand by. And so like there is going to be a lot of different approaches to this. This is not a blanket solution. It's not a catch-all. It's not like a one thing fits to all applications here. It just isn't, because like, I mean, it just looking through these things cycle through each other. Some of them you're like, yeah, man, that looks a little bit better, or the environments look better, like the textures look better, the lighting looks better, the character models look worse. They look more cartoony in some ways. They look more realistic in some ways. It's just odd. And it has that weird look to it where you open up Facebook and there's like this picture of a 98-year-old grandma who made her own birthday cake, and it's not real. And all these comments underneath are like, happy birthday, I love cake, what's your number? And I don't know, I sort of reject that aesthetic. I reject the fact that that aesthetic is being used to fool people, which is a bigger conversation. But there is, like, taking this and just applying it to everything video game wise doesn't work. It just doesn't. It simply doesn't. Like, it's one of those things where studios are going to have to figure out where this toggle sits and how much they want to allow their games to just be handed away. Because it's like, the thing is, the modding community has existed for decades, right? Like, Resident Evil Requiem came out, the day it came out, people were putting modded characters in that game. That's totally cool. And obviously, this Nvidia thing is optional. It is not being forced on you. It is not something that you have to click the button, you have to play the game, and it won't let you turn it on or off. But it's something people are paying for when they're buying these, these consoles and these PCs and all this stuff. And so, like, yeah, we're going to have to find, there's that Goldilocks, too hot, too cold, just right with the porridge shit that we're going to have to deal with here, and find the right solution that makes the artists happy, that makes the fans happy, that keeps people from having a crunch game dev until midnight every night and order crappy pizzas just so they can make games better. Like,
again, we always talk about like AI being used as a tool. I would be so happy if video games continued to look like Resident Evil Requiem does out of the box on a base PS5, if AI was channeled into making game development just more sustainable, as opposed to just like cutting heads because it can be done more efficiently. If they find some way to be like, yes, we can turn around games that look like this, and more people can just go home and see their families when they need to, and they don't have to kill themselves and live at the office to get the thing out the door on time.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip from Beyond, IGN's weekly PlayStation show. You can find the full episode over on youtube.com/IGN Games. And don't forget, new episodes of Beyond drop every Wednesday on IGN.com, the IGN Games YouTube, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching, and as always, Beyond.